Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Are You Strong Show. Another fantastic guest on tonight. But before I say his name, as I always do, I want to kind of rip off his accolades. And it's a long list. I couldn't fit them all on one page. I had to cut them down a little bit. But he started out playing college football at Grand Valley State. And if anybody knows anything about Grand Valley State, that's a powerhouse Division two, football team. Earned his bachelor's degree in education, member of the two NCAA Division two national championship teams, which that I can't wait to get into that and what that was like. Started his coaching career at Grand Valley State, right? As a student assistant. Then he went on to Western Michigan as a grad assistant, then became the defensive coordinator and eventually the head coach at Elmhurst University. And what was pretty cool is he led the team to the first conference championship in 22 years. That's a great accomplishment. Then took a position at Syracuse, which I definitely want to dive into that offensive line coach, and had a lot of success there. And from Syracuse, takes the head job at Saint Anselm College. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Since 2016, up in the Great White Tundra of New Hampshire, and all-time winningest coach in the history of the school. Coach of the year. Welcome to the show, head coach Joe Adam.
Thanks for having me on, Jeff. I appreciate it, man.
Joe, I'm excited to have you on, and I love when I get not just a former college player, but a coach.
Yeah.
I love hearing the coach's perspective, especially in today. I can't wait to dive into all the craziness of today. But before I start to hit you with a ton of questions, Joe, do me a favor, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and we'll kind of roll from there.
Yeah, I've been blessed enough to be able to coach this game for this fall will be 30 years in coaching college football.
Wow.
So it's been a true blessing for me every day that I get to do this. And back in I tell this story a lot in recruiting. Back when I was going to school, I originally wanted to be an electrical engineer, and found out in my first day of class that I wasn't going to be an electrical engineer.
Now, what made you realize that?
Well, I looked around the class and I said, "Hey, man, you guys really enjoy this? Do you really love this?" And they're like, "Yeah, this is great." And I'm like, "No, this ain't me."
Yeah.
So, but I had to kind of fail to succeed, I guess you could say. So, from that, it's been something that I said to myself, if I could do something every day of my life and find fulfillment in it and find enjoyment in it, and what would that be? And that's coach football, and that was 29 years ago. So
29.
I've been able to, I guess, last the test of time. So I'm originally from Chicago. I'm not a New Englander. So born and raised in the Midwest. And I'm an avid cigar smoker. Enjoy
Okay.
cigars and bourbon and horse racing. And when I have some time to do those things outside of football.
Is there any horse racing up there?
There isn't, but I get into the Kentucky Derby and some of those other things,
Okay.
Triple Crown races, and I've been to a lot of those places around the country.
That's great. And where in
Yeah.
Chicago are you from?
Northern suburbs, a town called Skokie, Illinois.
Skokie.
Yep.
Isn't there an Okie from Skonokie? One of
Might
those.
be.
But
But yeah, I was on the north side and spent most of my kind of young adult life living in and around the north side of Chicago.
yeah, it's a great city.
It is. It is. I haven't been back in a little bit, but I miss some of the people there and some of the times we had.
Now, are you a Bears fan?
I am.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're ready to
good
rock and
season.
roll.
Good
Yes,
season, right?
we're building towards something exciting. So
Oh yeah.
get on the bandwagon now.
That's it. So let's go backwards in time.
Sure.
And high school. Coming out of high school, out in the Midwest and recruiting. What was recruiting like for you? You know, you're a head coach now. You're the name of your game is recruiting. That's it,
Yep.
right? Um, Talk about what it was like when you got recruited out of high school to what it's like today and the differences that are out there.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a different crazy story. Going back to wanting to be an engineer, I was an offensive lineman, and so I really enjoyed the game and I loved playing it. And this was back in the day when, before the internet, so you had to go to your high school advisor and say, "Hey, what schools have this major, have football?" And then you kind of look through this really thick 1,000-page book.
Yeah, I
And
remember that book.
so like one of my choices was University of Illinois, and I'm like, well, I'm not that good. And then I had some Division III schools, and I said, well, I can always go to these places, and I viewed a couple of those around the area. And I found this school actually where I originally started was University of Minnesota Mankato, and
Okay.
so in Southwest Minnesota. And so I kind of did this on my own, to be very honest with you. I remember it very vividly. I was calling the coach up there, and I said, "Hey, I'd really like to visit." And he's probably like, "Who's this guy?" And when I was 18 years old, I booked a flight on my own. I
Wow.
got onto a shuttle to take me from Minneapolis to Mankato, Minnesota, and legitimately showed up in the coach's office. And that's how I got there. So I refused to hear no. And so they offered me a walk-on opportunity. And so we didn't have like a bunch of camp exposure like we do now. We didn't have a way to kind of promote yourself. It was legitimately, can the coach find you and can you make yourself be known? And so, that was kind of my story. And then I, had to block all the good guys on the scout team. And so, that that was a tough role, but I got stronger as the season got on, and it was rewarding because people acknowledge the hard work, and so
Yeah.
but fast forward to now, I mean, you have all the different modalities as far as recruiting services and street agents and different people that you can reach out to that can put your name out there that can create some opportunities for you.
Yeah. So, were you a big guy coming out of high school, being the
Yeah,
offensive lineman?
I was about 6'3", almost 280 pounds.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
So, how big did you get in your
That's I
playing
was
days?
probably I topped out probably about in my playing time, probably about 315. Yeah.
Now, now I don't mean to act like this is forever ago, but 30 years ago, that was a huge
Yeah.
guy. They
Yeah.
they weren't making him that big back then.
Yeah. So I wish after I stopped playing I kind of got a little bit healthier. It took me a little bit more time and I'm still working towards it. But I had a good size, but like again, I came from ran a triple option offense at my high school. So a lot of down blocking, veer blocking, not a lot of pass blocking.
Yeah,
I didn't have a ton of tape. I had a great desire, but I was one of those guys who I run into in my coaching life now, where like they just want a chance. They just want a chance to
yeah,
show what they could do. And I was very fortunate that the coaches there gave me an opportunity to be part of their team and be
yeah.
part of that brotherhood.
And Joe, that you talk about a chance. There's so many kids that are overlooked, right? There's so many just because it's just such a big population of like someone's gonna get missed,
Yeah.
and like the obvious are the obvious, but it's that borderline guy who, with a little more attention, a little more practice, a little more whatever, they can become stars.
Yeah, that's the one thing that here at St. Anselm that we thrive on. We've had a great ability to pour into guys who and really find out what they can become and have a vision of with hard work and coaching and development, what kind of ceiling can they hit? That has been our kind of blueprint here the last 10 years. We don't have, it's a hard academic school. We don't have the most scholarship money, so I can't find and pay the best talent. And so for us, we have to find the right fits for this place and
Right.
then continue to pour into them and pour into them. And eventually they're going to become what they're supposed to become. And we have found some great
Yeah.
young men who probably the only offer they had was our offer.
So, for the young guys who might be listening, like when you say you found the right fit, like what is your fit? What is the ideal recruit look like for you?
Yeah, for us, it's a guy who is a high academic nature, right? And when I say that, we're probably the average incoming freshman at Saint Anselm College on a yearly basis is roughly a 3.4 GPA. So we're going to recruit those guys and above. We don't recruit in the 2 points here because the academics will eat you up. You
Yeah,
got to have a solid foundation of what you can do and how you go about doing it. And you want to, you're probably a guy that's looking for a faith-based education. We're a Catholic Benedictine school here. We have monks that live on campus. And then we have a little bit of a New England prestigious price tag. So I also say to recruits like, hey, you got to live in your reality, much like I did 30 years ago. And so I would love to go into a $100,000 home with a $200,000 budget, but that's not going to work.
right,
So like, okay, so look at the things that are in your price range, look at the things that are in your location range, and then look at some of the other pieces that are, hey, what does the team look like? How's the coaching staff? Am I going to get developed? And then what's my return on investment? Like, why am I going to college?
right.
What does that look like? And so I think those are all questions that kind of go into that fit category.
Yeah,
When we look at the right fit for our
yeah.
place.
And I was checking your roster out before. You got a bunch of Jersey kids up there.
We do. It's probably after Massachusetts. It's the third largest place we source players from here.
Any Caldwell kids? I didn't check that out.
Uh, not in the last couple years, but it's been like spans all over the state of New Jersey,
Yeah.
from the shore to the south. We've had a little bit of everything, and so why is that? Well, we've had two recruiters, main recruiters, who are very knowledgeable in that area, who have
Hmm.
great connections. Football is important in that state. It's resourced. People believe in it and they work at it through the off season.
Yeah.
And you can find those guys that have academics and then similar private school backgrounds that what we have here at St. Anselm. So I think there's some natural fit when it
Yeah.
comes to some of the colleges down there or the high schools.
Yeah. The private school football programs down here, some of them are like national powers, like
Hmm.
Bergen Catholic,
Yep.
and Don Bosco.
Yep.
Like those are massive programs that just run it. They run the table.
Yeah.
So you ended up going to Grand Valley, right?
Yeah, when I came back home, I worked, I grew up pretty fast, had to pay the light bill when I was 19 years old before they shut it off in my apartment. So we were kind of a blue collar family, me, my mom, my sister, and we kind of had to, everybody poured into this to make this thing work. And so, again, I talk a lot about living in your own reality. And so until you can create a new reality. So I had to live that reality. And so I worked a double shift. Ended up actually before I got to Grand Valley, finished my 2 year degree. It took me almost 5 years at the junior college level. Coached with the winningest head coach in junior college history. His name is John Elizik, who is a great mentor of mine, and I still talk to probably once every 6 to 8 weeks. And then my break came. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a Monday night class, and we had Brian Kelly, who was the head coach at Grand Valley State, was on campus. We had just sent a young man to him a year before, who was a great All-American linebacker. And coach was given a clinic, and I got a chance to meet him and sit down and talk with him a little bit about my story and what I could bring to the table. And he gave me an opportunity, which I'm eternally grateful for. And I got a chance to finish my degree at Grand Valley while I was basically student coaching. And so
Now,
I did a
you
little bit of everything on all sides of the ball, and I was surrounded by great coaches.
but you put the name Brian Kelly out there for the guy who doesn't know who that is. I want you to tell everybody who that is.
Yeah, let's see, a former head coach at LSU, also the former head coach at, let's see, Central
Notre
Michigan,
Dame.
Cincinnati, and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So he's had a long tenure and a long run, and I worked with him for a couple of years in the mid 2000s at Grand Valley State.
So what was that like? Was he as intense back then as he was now?
Probably even more intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything was very particular. And he did a great job of keeping everybody on their toes.
Yep.
And he demanded excellence. And so that's what we strive to do every day.
But what's so crazy about today is obviously he was asked to leave. They lost what, two games?
Yeah.
And you're goodbye. You lost two games. The pressure on these guys and the coaches today to win, it's different today than it was 20 years ago.
Absolutely. Sometimes, like the largest checkbook doesn't always win the prize.
Yeah.
And so it is a team sport. You can buy as many individual talent as you want, but the guy that can bring it all together and create the team culture in this environment is the one that's going to be successful.
Yeah.
And so there's plenty of teams now you're seeing it. You're seeing a little bit more in college football where the blue bloods are now like not the blue bloods anymore. You're like, wait a second, man. What about, some of these, traditional powerhouses? Well, the NIL piece and the donations and the high level donors
Yeah.
have changed the scheme on this thing.
Yep.
And so now it's become the NFL where, hey, you have a given year, anybody can win this thing.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
there's extreme parity now in college football. So is that a good thing? I think for some of the fan bases, sure it is.
Yeah.
But I still think there's a reckoning that's going to be coming down the road eventually.
Yeah. They got to put some guardrails on what's going on here.
Sure.
You know, I mean, when you see these kids, he transferred five times.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Really?
And I'm all for talent, and I'm in the minority here, which I understand this, but somewhere in this country right now, there's a 23-year-old coach who's making $25,000 and probably working 60 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like I understand that, all these Division One FBS guys make, six figures and hey, they well are entitled to that. But again, if you told me 30 years ago that the college player would have to take a pay cut to go to the NFL, I
Yeah.
would say you're crazy.
Right.
But that's the case right now.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the transfer freedom now? It's years ago, you got one shot, sit out, done.
Yep.
But now there's like you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a new world, right? I remember I'm old enough to know what a Letterman's jacket is.
Yeah.
So, when you were on a team, whether it was high school, college, like that was a big deal, man. Like you played for your town, you played for your high school, you played for
Yeah.
your city, you
Yep.
played for your school.
Yep.
And the money wasn't the driving factor, And I think when we have lost the ability to say, okay, well, we're trying to mold young people, but also win football games. Some
Yeah.
of that has been lost in our current situation,
Yeah.
and
It's
so
funny you
it's
talk
it's
about
hard. It's hard
you talk
to live that right now.
yeah. You talk about the letter jackets, right? And I played up at Maine and if you had the letter for 2 years to get a jacket.
Yeah.
So when you got that jacket, one is everybody knew you must be pretty good.
Hmm.
But two, like I still have it in my closet, wrapped in cellophane so like it doesn't get ruined. You
Right.
know what I mean? And that thing's 40 years old,
Yep.
you know?
It's a
And
point of pride, though. It's
oh
an
my
extreme
God.
point of pride
Are
for
you
a lot
kidding
of
me?
people. We don't have that in our game right now.
Right. And my kids who were, they have heard me talk about it and I've shown them black and white pictures of back in those days, And like, what are you doing with that jacket? Why don't you just get rid of it? I'm like, no way. There's no way I'm going to throw that thing out.
Nope.
So it's you're right. It's about pride. So how about you won the national championship twice
Yes.
at Grand Valley.
Yep.
Talk about that. And here's the question I want to ask you. What was the culture like on that team, and what were the standards?
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'll tell you about life is when you're the best team in the country and you walk off that field, it is like a feeling that you chase for the rest of your life. And it is the feeling that I chase every single morning of every single day.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that that's the end all be all, but there's a really cool experience if you've never been able to do that in your life, to
Yeah.
walk off that field and go through the gauntlet that we had to go through to win those games, and
Yeah.
to to get backups to have be key contributors, and the mentality and the mindset on that team. One, we were talented and we knew it.
Yeah.
Two, we would come off the bus knowing that we're going to beat the tar out of you. And everything was geared towards success and winning. And so, the resources that we had, the school resources, the mindset, the standards of how we went about our business, how we practiced, how we kept our locker room clean, all those small things, we demanded excellence in every sense, and we called it out when it wasn't. And it was a great blueprint for me as a young coach. And I came in and I'm like, man, this is easy, man. I'm rolling into college football. I've got a couple of national championship rings. I mean,
Yeah.
this is going to be smooth sailing. And so, but I think in today's day and age, Jeff, it is very difficult to build a team
Yeah.
like we had in the mid 2000s at Grand Valley State at this level.
Yeah. It's hard to build consistency anymore. You can build it like you said, a one and done. A
Yeah,
one, hey, you put the puzzle together, you win a championship, and next year everybody's jumping ship,
yeah,
for the check. So
right.
so let me ask you this: where are those rings?
They're at my house. They're in my bedroom. So sometimes I bring them out.
Yeah.
Sometimes I look at them. Often it's to remind me of such the great stories, and just a great collection of people
Yeah.
from all over the place, coaches and players.
Right.
Many of them who I still converse with this many years down the road.
Yep.
But that was huge to the fiber and fabric of who I am as a man and a coach. That time in my life
Yeah.
being.
So if you can go back to those years in the Grand Valley, is there, I mean, you have two national titles. How do you pick one? But
Yeah.
can you pick a moment in time where like it was like the most special time?
Yeah, I would say it was the first game, the first one that we got. We had a backup linebacker named Mike Hode, who came in at the end of the game, and this is a guy who just like didn't get a lot of credit and did everything right. And so never complained about it because there was a guy in front of him. And I remember North Dakota got into empty. Like I remember they play like it was they tried to high-low the will, and they try to throw the dig in behind him. And here's Mike Hode in the last 2 minutes of a tight ball game, and he makes the interception of his life. And there's probably less than, I don't know, 40 seconds left. And here's a guy who didn't have a lot of starts under his belt, but was a team guy and knew the game plan and was important to him. And he made the biggest play of his life. And I'll never forget that play because we had practiced it with the number one kid, and that kid I think got hurt at that point. And then Mike stepped in and did an awesome job. And so that was a great feeling, man, to win like that.
What do
When
you
when
what
the
do you
pressure's on and you get a chance, like it's going to go one way or the other. You're going to
yeah.
walk out of here with a loss, or you're going to win this whole thing.
What do you think that did for that guy's life? Picking that ball
Probably
off.
catapulted him into a whole nother
Yeah,
atmosphere.
right? He doesn't pick that off. Where does he end up?
I
He
don't
picks
know.
it off. What did it do for his confidence, his just belief in himself? It must have been like gigantic.
I don't know what he's doing now, but I always thought like, man, this guy's got it together and he's going to be successful no matter what. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he has been.
So when did you realize that coaching was your calling? Was it in that engineering class, or was it your
Part of
first?
it, yeah. Part of it was actually, I knew that, I really enjoyed coaching. And I remember my junior year of high school, a lot of my friends would come up, and I was always the guy yelling from the sidelines and studying my playbook. And they're like, man, you're going to be a coach. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be a coach. And, and I think a lot of it is, to be very honest with you, my high school coach, his name's Bill Richardson. He's since passed. tremendous influence on me as a young person, in a time when I was a young man who needed a male role model. My father passed away when I was very young, and so you know, I emulated those coaches, and like if they said, "Hey, we need you to jump through this brick wall," I would say, "How high you want me to jump?" And they really poured into me, and I really found like my peace and my calling. And I said, man, if I could be able to do that for other people someday in their lives, that would be a pretty cool experience and a
Yeah.
cool life. And so I've been able to do that. So I give a lot of credit to Coach and his staff, and the guys that in the formative years when you're in high school, especially for pouring into me and showing me the right way.
It's like it's the impact they had on you. You're just paying it back,
Paying it forward. Yep.
paying it forward, right?
Yeah.
So I think this has to be difficult. I don't know. I haven't done it, but you're a college football player, and then next thing you know, you're a coach,
Yep.
and you're not much older, or maybe some of these guys might be older than you, and now you got to coach them. What was that transition like to go from a player to now I'm a coach?
It was hard, man. It almost broke me, to be honest with you. Because you're commanding respect, right? You gotta step into a different light.
Yep.
You've got to do things differently. You can't hang out with the players. You can't party with them. You got to have a definitive line between business and social. And so I just looked at the opportunity and said, hey, this is how I'm going to be. And this is what I explained to them. And, you had to earn respect. Respect wasn't given because now I'm a 30-year veteran. I can walk into a school or guys can walk in my office and I probably have respect because I have the most stripes here, right on my shoulder. Back then, you had to earn it every day, and you earned it through your practice preparation, how you treated people,
Right.
and what you could turn them into. And so it took a little bit of time, but it was uncomfortable. And sometimes, when we're uncomfortable, that's a good thing. That's where the growth is.
When you
So
grow.
for me, it was tremendous growth when I was a young coach. Having to coach guys that were like my age
Yep.
or similar, and this just commanding respect and saying, "Hey, this is why I'm doing it, and this is the motive behind it," with some clear and concise communication. That's how I did it.
So how did you handle the guys that were close to your age who were weren't really buying into the fact that you were the coach, and they kind of didn't give you the respect that one you deserved, but they made it more, like they could do whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah, I leaned on the full-time coaches that were there, and we almost did it by community, and so those guys were great. They had my back as I was coming up and learning how to coach, and so I thought after 5 years of coaching at college and junior college football, I'm like, man, I know how to coach. Then I got to Grand Valley and found out that I really don't know how to coach. And so, but there was growth there, and so I let it roll off my sleeve. I didn't take it personal, and so handled my business and knew that I had a vision of what I wanted to become, and that's what I was going to become.
It's awesome. Western Michigan, what was the motivating factor for you to go there?
So there was actually a job posting, and it's kind of in this awkward position where I had just graduated. I never even got to walk on the stage because we're playing in the national championship game. So, I mean, I would still like give those things up, right? But now I'm sitting here and like right before the semester starting, I'm like, well, what do I do now? Like, do I stay here at Grand Valley and get a master's? Do I try to go somewhere else? It's kind of that limbo, I think, that every young coach gets to when they get to their degree. Or when you're a player and you're finishing up your degree, like some of my seniors are now, and they're like, okay, well, I've got to go out and get a job now. Like I can't just kind of live at home and hang out. So I saw a job posting, and Western Michigan was looking for a graduate assistant. Those guys called me, and so Coach Schaefer, Scott Schaefer, was the defensive coordinator, and had a great group around him. Bill Cubitt was the head coach. And so, I went on an interview and after my interview, they're like, "Hey, you're the number one candidate now, and it's your job to if you want it." And so I had to make some decisions because I was still living in Chicago. My girlfriend, who is now my wife, she was working in Chicago, and I said, "Well, hey, can we make this long distance thing after I've been gone for 2 years? Can we extend it for one more year?" And so, man, there's a lot of hard times in the family, to be very honest with you. I remember, driving home Friday nights back to Chicago from Kalamazoo. That was about a 2.5, 3 hour trip, and I'd get home late Friday, and obviously I was living up in Kalamazoo at the time, and then I would leave at like probably I don't know 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning to make the 8 a.m. staff meeting. I did that on multiple weekends, because I wanted to see my family.
And for those who don't understand, a grad assistant, that's a tough job.
It is.
I mean, it's not a lot of money. It's a lot of hours,
Yes, it is.
a lot of work. Can you describe for those that are thinking about, hey, coaching? Well, this guy, he's a head coach. He's been in a program all time winning. Oh, he's got it made. Talk about like what's that like to grow through those ranks?
It makes you who you are,
Yeah.
and it teaches you a lot about life and a lot about being a professional. My first game there, we played Indiana. I'll never forget this. And so we drive down to Indiana from Kalamazoo. We get tarred, and we're getting home at like I don't know. I'm calling like 1:30, two
And what
o'clock
does
in the
Tard
morning.
mean?
We got beat. We got
Beat you.
shelled on the field,
Okay.
right? So like the game was we lost probably by three scores at least.
Okay.
And they were better than us. They're in the Big Ten. We're in the MAC. And so part of being a grad assistant is, you got to get the video ready. You got to tag the video. You got to cut it up. You got to put the defensive calls in. You got to put the down and distance in because those guys get back and those guys, the full-time guys get to go home. And then you have to have that ready for the 8 o'clock staff meeting that's about to happen. Okay. Not only that, but there's about a dozen reports that I had to get done. So, like, what's the 1st and 10 call efficiency? How do we do on third down? What's the blitz percentage pressure? So I had to put all this data in, stuff that you can use AI for now. You're calculating on your own. And I'll never forget that. I think it was maybe 6:30 when I was done with all that, and I had a yoga mat in my office, and that's where I slept after the first game. I got an hour and a half of sleep. I asked the D-line coach, no matter what, make sure you come and wake me up for the staff meeting. And then you're on to the next opponent, and that day starts at 8 a.m. I probably got done at 10 p.m. that night, and then now you're working into the next week. And so you don't if I counted hours, I'd be rich and retired and I'd be a millionaire by now. But that's what it's like. And so you have to be a grinder. You have to be a first in, last out, philo, as I would say it.
Yep.
And so but it's the why of what you're doing it, right? And so you're part of a team that has to prepare a team.
Yeah.
And so be professional. And if it's not for you, then you should get out.
Yeah. If the why is big enough, you figure out the how,
Very much so.
right? And because I'm a guy, I know what goes on behind the scenes, not to your detail, obviously, but just playing college football, being in the meetings, going back a zillion years ago and preparing and the practices and the traditional fan, for lack of better words, doesn't understand what goes on behind the game. They just see the what I call the robots on the field playing the game. The good if it's especially if it's nice, the fans, the music, the band, the cheerleaders, and then it's over. They think, oh, these guys just must go back and next week we'll see them again. And
Yeah.
they don't know what you guys do to
Yeah.
get that job done,
Yeah.
you know?
It's
And
I mean it's math it's whatever 40 to 60 hours of work
yeah,
for a 3 hour game and then you rinse and repeat. And
yeah,
so, a lot of people don't know is that, my younger staff here is doing what I did 30 years ago. I still do a lot of these pieces as far as film breakdown and and so on and so forth. So as a head coach, I'm not above any job here.
Yeah.
So I need to lead and show the way. So, but a lot of my younger coaches, you have a late night game or something that finishes. Those guys are here for 3 or 4 hours after the game doing the same types of things that I did 30 years ago.
Yeah. And let me ask you this. When you were doing it, were you like, this is great? Or were you like, "Ugh, what am I doing this for?"
I think it was a little bit of both, but obviously I loved it, right? I
Yeah.
was I was like addicted to football. It
Yeah.
was it was a passion of mine. I was like, man, like any little tip you could find, like, hey, the quarterback's right leg is up on these plays and he's back on these plays. Anything you could find on film, you just watch hours and hours and hours of film to study,
Yeah. Yeah.
something that would give you an edge.
Now,
And
what were you always looking for? Were you looking for something that almost everybody does? Or were you looking for the unique thing that, hey, yeah, nobody does, but we found it?
yeah, the whole and the part process, right? So you look at the whole part of it and you say, hey, are they giving something away by split? Is the lineman's, hand pressure light? Do they have some kind of tendency on 1st and 10 or third and medium? And then you can drill down once you get the wide vision, I say, then you can get the narrow vision.
Yeah.
Hey, is the running back aligned at the heels of the quarterback, or is he aligned even with the quarterback? All these little nuances that you can try to catch, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I think I see something. And then now you're like, let me tally it.
Yeah.
Now you're watching 300 clips and you're trying to tally it to see if it holds true or not.
Yeah.
It's the chase. It's the chase and the you know the it's like the chessboard, and so like it's the game. You're playing the game to see how can I out leverage them? How can I use their rules against them? And
Right.
so how can I attack this one player? That's the fun part of coaching.
Oh, yeah. It's, I would say it's almost like trying to find the secret,
Hmm.
the secret that they're not aware of.
Right.
Right. So,
Very
so
much
then,
so.
then you go to Elmhurst
Yep.
University. So obviously you did well at Western Michigan, right? In
Yeah.
order for them to say, "Hey, come work over here." But you go from the DC defensive coordinator to the head coach. Talk about that progression. What motivated you to go there, and what was that progression like?
It was the first time in my professional career that I chose family over football. And so I have two stepchildren that I adopted legally here. And my son at the time was playing his senior year in high school that fall. And I said to myself, I do not want to miss this. And so I had to leave Division 1 to go down to Division 3 and kind of restart everything, right? Where I wasn't like willing to go around the country yet because my wife had a great job. We were enjoying living in Chicago, and I didn't want to uproot my kids.
Yeah.
So I went back, moved down to Division 3. Really started as a running back coach, and then became the defensive coordinator.
Okay.
And then in 2013 became the head coach. So in 2012, talk about full circle. So when I left Western Michigan, Tim Lester was our quarterback coach, and I was the defensive graduate assistant. Fast forward to 2012, Tim Lester's the head coach at Elmhurst College or university now, and I'm the defensive coordinator. And so like this is now the second stop that I had worked with him at. He's the current offensive coordinator at Iowa. And so him and I are really good friends, and he's a tremendous man and coach. And then 2012 we had this breakout season where we took this group and built this culture and had a 10-win season, went to the playoffs for the only time in school history. And then Tim got a call from Syracuse from Coach Schaefer, who was my old boss at Western Michigan, who had become the head coach at Syracuse. And so so it's all full circle. It's connections. It's
Yeah.
who right?
Right.
And then I got elevated to be the head coach, my first head coaching job ever. And so, man, there was a lot of learning lessons. There's a lot of things, even as long as I had been coaching, I was like, boy, I really, how do I do this? You get thrown into the fire and you do your best and you do it your way. And so I had a chance to do that for a year. And then I got the call to go to Syracuse.
So I mean, you at Elmhurst, you built the first conference champion in 22 years.
Yeah,
So obviously that didn't start from like, hey, you walked in and they were that good.
no.
So how did you rebuild it? What kind of belief system did you put in place and what was the standard?
Yeah, you built it with people that believe the same things that we did, and the same blue collar mentality that I preach. That's what we preach back there. And so we sourced some great guys from the Chicagoland area, and then we went to different states, Kentucky, Florida, Indiana, Michigan. We built our team with again a bunch of guys who like just worked tremendously hard, cared about each other, and didn't care who got the credit. And so that was a great blueprint because it's the same blueprint I've used at this particular place because there's a lot of similarities in those designs and those builds. And we took our lumps playing a bunch of those young freshmen, but we knew that they would get game experience and they would gel and they would come together and they would form something. And man, that senior year where those guys were a bunch of seniors, I
Right.
mean, we were super talented. We could beat a lot of people. I think we lost to North Central, and then we ended up losing to St. Thomas in the was it the semifinal.
So as the head coach, did your leadership style change or did they adapt to you? What was the biggest challenge that you had going from a coordinator to the lead guy?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is now, being a defense coordinator, coordinating the defense and having those guys play with my mentality and mold them to like what my coaching style is, like to be and reflect what I do. I had to try to get now the team to do that. And so a little bit more difficult because, some coaches pull away from that coordinator role and they just become the head coach. I was lucky enough that season where I remained the D coordinator and took on the head coaching roles. So
Mm,
now you're dealing with a whole other side of the ball that you have to be, that you can't really control to that sense. I guess you can to a point, but you're responsible for. Different than it being a coordinator on one side of the ball where you're just responsible for one side.
yeah,
Now all the decisions are going through you. Like, are we going for it on 4th and 1? Are we punting it here? How are we practicing? How are these guys responding? How do we deal with the injury lists? I mean, there's a 10,000 things that happen during that season that you're
yeah.
not prepared for until you go through the fire.
So as the head coach, you're wearing all the hats,
Yeah.
right? And you're the politician in the school.
Yep.
So how did you balance, hey, I'm no longer just the guy on the clipboard. I'm the guy that has to be the forefront or the face of the team. And then you got to deal with, I'm sure there's got to be some political stuff that goes on in the school for you to sometimes fight for the stuff you want for the team. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I think something I've always believed in is treat people with dignity and respect. And so we treat the janitor here just like the CFO. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. And so that's how you provide raving fan service for the people that are in your organization and their actions around our campus should emulate what your culture is. And if you do that, people are going to stand notice. I think one of the cool parts about being a head coach is when you get the random email or text or note card from something that your players did, right? Whether it's in the cafeteria, an interaction off campus, whatever it might be, and they say, hey, you know what? They're really well-spoken young men. They carry themselves well. That's a reflection of you as a head coach and your culture. And so that's the why behind why we do what we do. And so yeah, it take a lot of hats? Absolutely, Jeff, it does. And you got to compartmentalize your life a little bit as a head coach. So lucky I don't have, like I said, I don't have a lot of hobbies. So this football thing is my hobby right
That
now.
is your hobby.
Yep.
So, the other parts, I'll stick on the politician side, is when the football side of it's over, you still got to go out and shake hands.
Hmm.
Right? You say, hey, well, maybe the president of the school has got an event going on, or maybe
Hmm.
there's something going on in the local school, that local wide charity, something you got to attend. What kind of hours did you put in outside of the game itself?
There's a ton. As a head coach, you are the head of the whole thing, right? The program, like whether you like it or not, it lives and dies by you.
Yeah,
I remember a game we had here actually at Saint Anselm. I want to say it was my second year. We'd only won, gosh, three of the first three games in the first 2 years I was here, and so it was a really hard build. And that's not the fault of the players or anything else, but we were just building it at that time.
yeah,
And we had an alumni function after a homecoming game where we got beat pretty good. And I'm an extreme competitor. Like, I don't know if I'd love to win, but I sure as hell hate to lose. And so that was a hard thing for me because I had to walk into a room of people and glad hand and smile, and I was not in the smiling mood.
right.
And I just reminded myself that it's my duty to do that, to be professional, that
Yeah,
people are giving up their time to be around our program and treat them with dignity and respect. And so I went back to that rule we talked about, and so that kind of got me through. It was difficult, but I
yeah.
made it through that day.
Well, and you're not supposed to lose on homecoming.
No, you're not.
you know, so it's you said before about the locker room keeping it clean. You know, there's so many. I've been in locker rooms and like, what's going on here? You know, talk about that for a second as a standard. You got that from Brian Kelly. That was his thing. And did you carry that through every place you went?
Yeah, I have actually. And so, I mean, for some coaches I work with, it's become important, and some guys it really wasn't. And so I read a book about the New Zealand All Blacks, the rugby team down in New Zealand, which is like this elite group of people. And we use a term here, we call it sweep the shed. And they leave spaces better than they found it.
Yeah,
And so, whether you're on the road, like when you see a St. Anselm team on the road, you will find the garbage will be entirely full and there will not be a cup, a wrapper, or anything else of that nature on the locker room floor. My goal is if we could leave a note for the janitorial staff and say, hope we left it better than when we found it. That's what you're hoping for. We do
wow,
the same thing at home. And so my challenge to the guys is how do you expect to conquer anything in your life when you can't take care of your own locker room? And so it's little attention to detail. So how do you have attention to detail to make the open field tackle if you got stuff laying all over your locker room like a
yeah,
slop?
yeah,
And so I think those things carry over. I wholeheartedly believe that. And unless somebody can give me more data, I'll believe it till I'm done coaching.
yeah. Now, are you? I shouldn't. Let me take this back. Are you personally, but as a coaching staff, um, okay, if I was coaching college football, which I'm not, I am not even remotely close to the ability you got. But if I was coaching college football, I'd be telling the kids how to dress and like what they can and can't wear, how they should look in public, how they should, cut their hair, all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
Because when they walk out into the public, they're representing us.
Sure.
Do you have that type of mentality? Well, hey guys, we got to look great.
I do, but it's to a point, you know what I mean? And I used to be a little bit more hard edge. Maybe I'm getting a little bit softer as I get
Yeah.
older, and have less hair. But one thing I will say is that I want to promote a team environment, but I don't want to strip the individual of his
Right.
individuality.
Okay.
And so I think that's important. I think a lot of guys treat it like the military, where it's like, hey, everybody shave your head, right? Or do it this way. I think there's some standards and expectations that we have,
Hmm.
but I want to celebrate the uniqueness of the individual as well
Yep.
and not strip him of the gifts that he has.
Yeah.
I'll point out some tips. Sometimes I'll be humorous with the guys, but again, like, when it comes to going to class, like, if you wear your pajamas to class, how are you supposed to be taken seriously by the teacher?
Yeah.
I don't wear
Yeah.
my pajamas when I come to work.
Yeah.
So, try to emulate what we do here. Be professional.
Right. Now, how do you guys travel? Do you travel in gear? Do you travel in suits?
No, we travel because most of our stuff is in buses. And so
Okay.
something I instituted here is that we will wear the travel suit. We will be uniform in that sense. You will have your jacket zipped up on the bus. When we get off the bus, you'll have it zipped up. We do not wear hats in the classroom or in the lunchroom. That's purely out of respect.
Yep.
Push your chairs in. And, so like there are very specific things when it comes to how we dress for the day, right? And so I don't want to see your team colors of green and, you know, gold underneath the white and the navy and the gray that the Saint Anselm colors are. So we are particular about that. I tell the kids ahead of time, and I say, but I always leave an open thing like, hey, if you're having a financial issue or something else, let's talk about it.
Right.
Let's make sure we have an open line of communication because I don't want the players to think like, man, Coach Adam is so hard strung or so unapproachable that I can't come and talk to him.
Right.
That's not the case at all. My door is always open for the guys, and we talk about some real life things in this office.
Yeah. It's and when it comes to the gear, you guys give them all the gear, right?
Yeah, so we do a little bit of a swap with them. So they do a little bit of fundraising here, so I can really pour into them.
Yep.
And so but we've got more apparel than you can shake a stick at for a Division II college. That's for sure.
That's that's awesome. So Syracuse, what was the attraction there? That's big time college football.
Yeah.
The facilities, the locker room, the donors, the everything. What was that experience like, and what was a motivating factor to go there?
So one of my mentors, like I said, Scott Schaefer, I'm very close with even to today. He was making a change at offensive line, and so Coach Lester had gone the year before, and I was just coming off my inaugural head coaching season, and then we had had some conversation, late December, and then into early January, and then I just felt like, okay, if we're going to make a jump, like this was a great opportunity for me to break into Division I. And so we took that opportunity, and my wife left her job behind, and we left our family behind, and went into that environment. And so, the thing is, coaching's coaching, man. The field is the same dimension.
Yep.
The turf is still turf. The players are a little bit different. The expectations are to win. So I just decided I'm going to coach and be myself. And so, we were just transitioning from the Big East to the ACC. So that was a challenge, where they just won the Big East, but now they're going into a league with Clemson,
Hmm.
Louisville, and Florida State. So, it was a challenging 2 years on the field.
Yep.
But I had some really cool experiences, playing Notre Dame at MetLife, playing LSU and going toe to toe with them I think at that point it was our third string quarterback who did an awesome job. We lost by 10 in that game. And we had some really big wins, and we had some, not favorable games either.
Yep.
So I learned a lot from it. I still have some great friends that I coached with, and that coaching staff was a who's who of guys that are still coaching in major college football.
Yeah. Now, were you there when Tyree was there? David Tyree, or no?
No, I was right afterwards.
Right after?
Yes. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
after that.
I just had
So
he was on the show a couple weeks ago.
yeah, so Coach Marone who's the O-line coach now at the Patriots. He was the head coach. He was moving on. Coach Schaefer became the head coach. And so now, like our offensive coordinator, my first year, is now at LSU as the wide receiver coach. Our running back coach is now with the Colts. Tim Lester's with Iowa. Clark Lee is the head coach at Vanderbilt. And Tim Dowse is the D-line coach at Pitt. So it was a great coaching staff. Even our GAs, man, tremendous guys. BJ Code is now the head coach at Wittenberg. Mike Gobriel is the special teams coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. These are our younger coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, so like we had some great ones, man.
Good, good guys.
It was cool because we had a young crew that we recruited that in their senior year for Coach Babers ended up winning 10 games. I was really proud of them. It was a fun thing to watch because I felt like had been part of that to get them there, and then just didn't get a chance to see it through.
Yeah. So I wonder what your coaching tree looks like. If you were to put start you down here, right?
Yeah.
Say all the guys that were ahead of you that grew the tree, but then as the tree grew, now you're at the top. And
Yes.
all the guys you've touched that are now coaching somewhere, like what's that tree look like?
There's a quite abundant few of them, or sorry, a quite abundancy of them
Yeah.
actually. I always say like we should have an AFCA Cradle of Coaches Saint Anselm version, like they do at some of these other places, because I have a number of my guys, even the time that I've been here, who are in the coaching world.
Yeah.
Whether it's high school, college,
Right.
wherever they are, and I think my hope is that we've provided a great experience for them and a great model that they can see like what this game can help them with,
Yeah.
and they've fallen in love with it. And that's a cool experience for me to hear from some of my guys that are coaching.
Oh yeah.
That when I was their age, that reaching out to my mentors and saying, "Hey, here they're giving me this blitz. How do I pick
Yeah.
this up?" Or, "Hey,
Yeah.
this player's giving me this challenge. Like, how do I deal with it?"
Yeah. So Joe, think about it for a second. Not just the coaches that you've touched, but just think about all the players that they've coached that they've touched.
Yeah.
And that ripple effect. If you had to guess, if you go back to, your beginning start as a grad assistant all the way up till now, between the coaches and the players that the ripple effect have touched, what do you think it might be? How many?
At least five figures.
At least.
At least.
That's
Who
insane.
knows? Maybe 20, 30,000.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Imagine if you had that tree. And
Yeah.
I bet you AI can do it.
Probably.
You should try that one day and see what happens. All the
Maybe when
different,
I'm all done with this, I'll put my long waited book together and
yeah. Oh, by that
think
time,
about
it'll be
the lessons
50,000 people.
that we've learned along the way. But like I always say here, even when we talk about what's important to our program, like yes, I've had some great wins and I've lost some games along the way. We all have gone through that. But the lives that you get a chance to touch when you're
Yeah.
coaching, like those are the real wins that you have. And I can go to sleep at night knowing that I'm giving my very best to these people here and that we are developing men and we are creating and building men with the platform of football.
It's awesome.
Regardless of how many games that we win and lose. Uh, I can at least go to sleep at night knowing that my mindset and my motivation is in the right place.
Yeah. I mean, it's just got to be so gratifying,
Very much.
you
It's
know?
a lot of hours now.
It's a
It is
lot
a
of
lot of
hours.
hours, but you know what? It is gratifying, and when a young man can come in here and I got a great phone call 2 weeks ago from a young man that graduated a year ago, and he's like, "Coach, you're my first phone call. I made it into the Secret Service, my
Wow.
dream job. I was part of his reference call with the recruiter. You get to be part of these things and you get to speak about the life of people and to be part of this small
Yeah.
part of this journey. It's tremendously rewarding, and
Yeah.
you need these jolts of these events in coaching to continue to inspire you every day to say what you're doing makes a difference.
Yeah. Yep.
And so for all the coaches out there that are doing all these small things that, it doesn't go unnoticed, trust me. It could be that one thing that you say that you don't even acknowledge that can change somebody's life. And I've heard that. I mean, I can't count how many times I've heard that one. Like I'm
Yeah,
like, man, I really said that. They're like, yeah, man, it was like it was inspiring and it changed my life. I'm like, wow, cool.
that's really great. I say coaching is like it's like being a priest. It's a calling. It's
Very
either
much,
it's in your gut and in your heart and in your mind, or it's not.
very much so.
In order to put up with what all the stuff you did to grow to the level that you're at now, like most people don't want to invest that time,
Yeah.
you know?
It's been a great life though. Like my wife enjoys our Saturday game days. I enjoy being around the guys. It's a great football experience here, amongst all the other places I've coached at. And I've got a lot of great memories and stories along the way.
Yeah. And you just mentioned your wife. You got to have a football wife, right? If you don't have a football wife, this stuff, like, it doesn't work. Or it's a lot more difficult.
Hey, the real head coach in our family is not me. So, she's the real head coach. She's a blessing to me every day. I thank God for bringing her into my life. And we've known each other for 26 years. We've been married for almost 22 now. And so she's been with me along the journey. She's shared the exhilaration of all the wins. She's picked me up when my head was down, when we were not successful, when I questioned myself. I think behind every successful coach and any coach in that in general is a really supportive spouse, wife,
Yep.
girlfriend, who doesn't get enough credit.
And you know what? If she would have said no to the long distance relationship, where would you be?
Who knows? I don't like to think about those
Yeah.
things. I don't live in hindsight, so I just keep looking forward.
Yeah. But that's when you know it's a football wife because she put up with all that stuff from way back then.
Yeah.
So you get the head coaching job at Saint Anselm. What did you bring to the table there? What was the vision when you showed up?
When I walked around campus, I said, "Man, this is like a beautiful place, and they're really good academically." I'm like, "What's the hang up here? What am I missing?" And it was mindset, it was mentality, and there was a high turnover of administrative personnel here. My first year we had some really great players, man. Did we do the best job in coaching them? I don't know. We kind of got thrown into this thing. I took this job in May. So it wasn't like, hey, I could have a whole recruiting cycle and
No,
this is what it is. So we're probably dead last in the league. Nobody expects anything from us. And I said, okay, man, I'm gonna roll up my sleeves, man, and go to work. God placed me here for a reason. My faith is really strong, and I'm gonna do a work, man, like He's done a work in me. And so, I just put my head down and worked and ignored the noise. And now it is what it is. And so I'm the only one really right now on our coaching staff that was here when we started this. So the analogy I give these guys is like those beautiful cathedrals you see in Europe that took 500 years to build. Somebody had to lay the original ground,
first brick.
the,
Yeah.
the first bricks. They didn't get a chance to see and live to see the end. And so I've been lucky enough to now, be seeing this, especially over the last 5 years of the transformation that this program has taken. And
Well,
so,
don't say you're seeing the end yet. It's not the
no,
end.
I don't. You never know that, but I'm on God's good
Yeah.
humor. So,
So who was your first recruit that committed to you? You remember?
oh, I couldn't even tell you because the 2016 class was already coming. So that was like recruited by the previous staff.
Right.
So I was just kind of filling in some of the questions. I could give you that answer if I look back at my notes
Right.
and said, okay, where's my call log and who was the first one to say yes?
Yeah. I
Um,
would go find that guy's picture and put it up on the wall in the Hall of Fame.
I should do that.
Right?
That's a great point.
Yeah. Because he's the first guy who believed in you
Yeah,
as a head coach. Well,
yeah,
not at that school,
yeah. That's
right?
cool. So, that's a great point.
Yeah. So player development, it's such a big thing today. What's going on in your team? What's going on in your school? If you were to say, hey, this is what our player development looks like, both as an athlete and as a man, what's going on underneath that umbrella?
Yeah, so like I think number one, our coaching style, it's not a cookie cutter experience here, okay? And so like I tell guys in the recruiting process, we're going to coach you and we're going to use a little bit of a thermostat method here. All right. And the reason I say that is because we're going to have standards and expectations that I expect you to meet. And if you don't, I'm going to turn the heat up and challenge you.
Mm.
Right. And so, but I also know being that age and being male in our society, there's going to be some hard days, man. Right. There's going to be some days where you lack self-confidence, you doubt yourself, you don't think like you can do it. You're in the valley. That's when I got to cool it off. I got to come around you. I got to, put my arm around you and build you up. And so, well, our thing is we have standards and expectations. I don't have a bunch of rules here. When you have rules, you have a ton of enforcement. I don't want to be the enforcer. I want to have standards and expectations. And our job on a daily basis is to meet or exceed them, coaches and players. If you meet or exceed it, you get praise and you get heaped a ton of reward. If you fall short, uh, I don't mince words, you'll know about it. And so you'll be challenged to meet or exceed the standard. So I tell the coaches we're going to demand excellence in everything in every way, and I'm going to call it out when it's not. And so I tell the players all the time, like, don't get upset at me for holding you accountable. And so, I shouldn't get any palms up for like, oh, man, I was late to this or I missed the line or whatever it might be. And then just pouring into the guys every day, athletically, spiritually, academically, personality wise, showing them that you care, showing them that you're approachable, showing them you can talk more about life and model a life that hopefully they can look at and say, man, you know what? Like, nothing seems to phase coach, right? Like he's very like level keeled. He doesn't like blow up at us a lot and he doesn't like treat us badly. I want to show them a model of consistency in my professional and my personal life that they can emulate throughout the rest of their lives.
What's your coaching style? Are you the quiet guy, the even keel guy, the loud guy?
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of
Depends
all.
on the situation. I'm pretty even keeled. I'm pretty positive. When I see things that you don't do well that are controllable, or bad body language, I am
Mm.
going to erupt like a volcano. And
Now,
so,
body language on the field or off the field too?
both. When you have poor body language, I may not be an expert in football. I am a 100% expert in body language.
Love it.
When you have poor body language or woe is me or
Yep.
victim mentality, I am going to nip it immediately. And
I love
so,
that.
and I'm going to challenge you, and you will know about it. So the cool part is, I think if you ask the players, like they know where they stand all the time. There is no gray area here. I don't sugarcoat anything. That's my coaching style. I am dead honest. If it's not good enough, I'm going to tell you to your face. And you may not like it, right? But you're going to understand the message. And so, I don't, I always say like don't be critical of the performer or criticize the performance, right?
Mm,
So if it's not good enough, those guys will know and then we'll give them steps about okay, where can I get to so I can
yeah,
improve,
it's how they learn.
right? And that's how they learn. And so there's a ton of failure that goes on. Failure is growth, right? So you have to look at how if I wasn't successful at this, you know, what can I do that's within my control to reach the goals or to reach the success rate that I'm supposed to be reaching here. And so a lot of times with young people, it's about editing out their life.
Yeah,
It's about removing the things that aren't healthy for them. It's about pruning the weeds around them so that their tree can grow.
yep.
And a lot of it is in these guys' lives today, it's addition by subtraction.
Who they hang
Like,
around with.
yeah, who you hang around with, what content are you consuming?
Yeah,
If you mindlessly scroll these things, are you letting lust get into your life where like, it's overcoming your life? These are real things that young men are dealing with
yeah.
nowadays. You know,
Yeah.
how do I want them to treat their girlfriends like I treat my wife.
Right.
You know, I'm going to model that in how they should treat their loved ones and their wives and how they should respect women. And hopefully that they can emulate that in their own relationships.
I'm sure as you as the leader and the staff, you lead by example. They they can't help but follow it. But I'm sure you get a straggler every now and then who's like goes off the beaten path.
Once in a while, I'm surrounded by tremendous coaches here. I mean, these guys are rock star dudes. Like
That's
I'm
good.
only as good as the people that are around me.
Hmm.
And I mean, I have some great people, and I have graduated players and coaches. You know, I mean, I just hired a new offensive line coach. My last three offensive line coaches are in Division I football. So like we have developed, young coaches as
Yeah.
well to be great people as well. And so the analogy I give is like I'm stirring this big tub of Gatorade every day. Okay. That's the message. That's the vision of our
Yeah.
program. Okay. And I hand it out to our coaches and our leadership council, and they take a sip for me and they say, all right, what do we taste? Does this taste right? Is it a little bit off? Does it need a little bit more sugar? Whatever it needs.
Yeah.
If the messaging and the vision is right, and more times than not, it usually is, then those guys got to start filling up cups and passing it out to
Passing it
every
out.
single
Yeah.
buddy in the room.
Yeah. So
And
that's
we're all
got to be,
drinking the same Kool-Aid.
but that's got to be a challenge for you, Joe, is you get a good coach and he takes another job, and
Yeah.
and the reason he became a good coach is because he was underneath your system.
Hmm.
And like it's almost like that cycles. You got to keep filling it up.
We do, I mean, like this, I've had to be HR Central here the past couple of years, it seems like. But when you have quality people,
Yeah.
much like you have quality kids in your program,
Yep.
people are going to try and go in the portal and poach you. Like when you have quality coaches that do a really nice job that have attention to detail or professional, they're going to get opportunities. And so, it's my job to kind of mentor them along the way, but also be like, okay, well, hey, I've been in your shoes. Here are the pros. Here are some of the cons. Don't take jobs just because of the paycheck, because I've lived that life and made mistakes in that sense as well. And so make sure that it fits where you want to try and go with your life.
Right.
And obviously we all, I think each one of the coaches here that they want to make a great financial salary, right? And I don't want to hold them back from that.
Right. And it's got to be the right fit though, too.
Sure.
Because if you're in the wrong environment, sometimes the paycheck just doesn't matter.
Very true. Like the work's going to be the work, right? And I've
Yeah.
had opportunities, and phone calls, even in my seat. And so, but like, I really love the people here. It's been very close to my heart. I really love the church that I'm a part of. For my wife and I, are very big into our faith and leading young men. And so, those two composite things, along with man, I have a great group of players here. I mean, I wouldn't give them up for anything. Like not a pot of gold. I'm telling you right now. I really enjoy being around these guys,
That's
and
awesome.
and we have a great group of people that don't care about who gets the credit, and you know takes what I try to tell them, and takes that for real, and tries to apply it in their lives. So I appreciate that about our players and our coaches that are currently here and our administrative staff.
That's great. Which is leads to my next question is you got the most wins in school history,
Yeah,
right?
I do now.
Yep. So how long has your school had a team?
So my understanding is that 1889 the school opened, right? They had football up until World War II, and then they put it on the shelf, and it did not come back until 99 was the first, I believe, recruiting class.
Okay.
And so we had just passed 25 years of like the new wave of football on the hilltop. So it's a
Yep.
very young, it's a very young program.
Yep.
And so, in the mid 2000s, I did not know this. I think there's like almost a 35, 40 game losing streak here, which is a couple years now. And so, um, so there's some lost groups in those
Yeah.
years. And so, but I'm really appreciative of the alumni that have come back, that have contacted me, that look at what we've built here and said, man, this is something I'm really proud of. And thank you for bringing St. Anselm out of the ashes. And I didn't do it. We did it.
Yep.
I make sure everybody understands that I've been the leader here, but I'm only as good as the people that are around me. And I've had a great vision of what this could become. And we
Yep.
have lived it out every single day. And I found people that believe in the same vision that I do. And so
Cool.
to go into game one last year, and I honestly did not know this until I got through, I think, camp, where they're like, hey, you're about to become the winningest head coach. I'm like, nah, you got to be kidding me. And so, I don't have 500 wins here. Let me preface that, but it's a great milestone. I'm not a ego guy. I'm not a me guy. But it was a cool experience. I did bring my wife on that trip to get some of the calls of some of the guys that I've spent time with in this coaching world, and the people that know how hard this job is in New
Yeah.
England and what this really is at a place like St. Anselm. And then especially the people that are on this campus that reach out to me during that time. It was really special for me.
Especially when it's early November and you're outside.
Yeah,
It's cold, right?
no doubt.
So have the facilities changed much since you've been there?
Yeah, so we put new field turf in a little bit less than 3 years ago. We built a new football locker room, with real wood lockers, and
It's
I
all
took
about the locker
over.
room.
Yeah, I took over here. We had 82 on the first team, my first fall in 2016. We have 122 players here now,
Wow.
and so we have added, and our retention rate has gone up. And so it's been a great build. We had a great recruiting year. We signed 41 at signing day. Our roster is completely full. I
That's
cannot
awesome.
add another player. And I have said no to, gosh, it has to be at least 20 to 30 players that have reached
Oh,
out to me.
wow. Now, have the new roster limits, does that affect D2 or no?
Not in Division Two, no. That is Division One only, and if you are revenue sharing with your team. So like if you want to do that, then you have to stay with 105.
Yeah.
And so it has created a log jam, not only at the collegiate level, but for the high school
Yeah.
players. I had a friend of mine in FBS football who literally told me that he will never spend money on another high school player ever again.
Not horrible.
Well, because like it doesn't behoove them. So
No,
you look at
no.
Indiana. Indiana is the oldest team that won the national championship. By age, they're the oldest team
They're like 24 years
in
old, right?
college football. There's something to be said about that. And that's
Yeah.
not saying that 18-year-old kids cannot play.
Right.
That's just saying a collection of them, you're not going to be very successful in this environment.
Yeah. Again, my opinion, I just don't like where that's going. I think there should be an age limit on, okay, is it 24 the max? I don't know. You can't be 26 years old and still playing college football after 7 years.
Well, I think not to get on the soapbox here, but this changed when collegiate academic schools became sports businesses.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Right? So Alabama football is not Alabama football per se. It is the football club at Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
And so these entities operate separately of the college almost in a
Yeah.
whole nother entity, much like a business has different branches
Yeah.
of their businesses. This is a different branch for
Right.
the business of college. And so they have figured out that they cannot survive on academics alone, and that there is big money when it comes to sports in our
Oh,
country.
yeah.
And
I mean,
that
look at the
seems to have
QB at Ole
gone all
Miss.
in.
Get he gets the QB at Ole Miss comes back for he's coming
Yep.
back for year six.
Yep.
And the medical red shirt approval. First they say no, then they come back and say yes, and I'm like, I know, like you said, he was going to be a first round draft pick, so they say,
Yeah. The
but he's making more
NCAA
money at Ellis at Ole Miss.
they'll continue to get sued unless they have antitrust
Yeah,
law. And that's only a congressional and a governmental
yeah,
piece.
yeah.
And so there is not unfortunately for the NCAA, there is not a lawsuit that they can win right now. And
No,
so they cannot put parameters on your eligibility. They cannot put parameters on your how many years you're in college. Like, you know, but
yeah,
again, like to the all the donors out there that are funding all this, when does it end?
yeah. I don't
When
know.
is the donor fatigue going to hit and finally they're going to run out of money? Because it's going to happen. You cannot spend at the clip that major college football is spending at and expect there to be longevity. A day of
Yeah,
reckoning is coming, even in the FBS world.
right. Scary.
Yeah,
So Joe, you still got a number of years ahead of you coaching,
I hope so.
right? But there's going to come a day, and I say this to all of my guests on the show. There's
Sure.
going to come a day where you say, "I'm done," and there's going to come a day where, hey, as I always say, we're none of us stay around forever. But we talked about that tree of all those
Mhm.
20, 25,000 people you've touched, and by the time you're done, it'll probably be 50. But your name's going to pop up in parties. It's going to pop up in social gatherings. It's going to pop up at weddings, christenings, all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
And when it does, how do you want to be remembered by all the people you've touched?
I think for me, I want to be remembered as someone who was firm yet fair. And that's my style. And someone who could, they could share some Coach Joe isms. As I get from some of our alumni who are like, man, like we say some of these terms that you say now, and it's kind of
Yeah,
funny that way. A guy that what I want to remember for is a guy that gave every single ounce of energy into everybody every day of the year, no days off. And so, I've prided myself in my own life of not never being outworked by anybody. And I'm going to be the lead dog, and that's important to me as a man. And so, um, that's what I want to be remembered for, my work ethic and how I cared about people.
the lead dog.
Yep,
Love it. Love it.
lead dog.
So, Joe, we covered a lot of stuff. High
Yeah.
school, right out of high school, all your different stops and the impact you've made and the vision and the mission you were on. And I can only imagine where it's going to go. But is there anything that we haven't touched that you think we should hit before we wrap it up?
No, I just think that the last thing I'll leave you with is that, for the people out there listening and whoever gets a chance to hear this is that, God has gifted you with a unique talent and to go find what your purpose is in life. And there's a lot of ways to do this life. Some people want to, work in a cubicle and make a lot of money, and some people want to, make pina coladas under a hut on a beach. And there's
Yeah.
not a right or wrong answer.
Nope.
Do your very best and try to make a positive impact in your life, your family, and your community.
Awesome. It's a great way to wrap it up. So, Joe, thanks for being on. Appreciate your time. Your story is incredible, and I can't wait for this to get out there for the listeners to hear. And I'm looking forward to another winning season to keep adding to the total.
Keep going.
That's it. So, good luck and stay strong.
Appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
You got it, Joe.
Have a great night.